Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this evening with our new friend Dawson, 25% of One Flew West. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Top 25. We agreed. This is the upper echelon of the 100% of One Flew West.
Yep. It's not easy, but it's something that I strive to maintain.
Carry it on
Someone's
your shoulders.
Someone's got to
do
it.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't you introduce yourselves, talk about the band a little bit, tell us, the background of the band and yourself, and throw everybody else under the bus for not being here.
They're going right under the bus. So, yeah, as they said, my name is Dawson. I play the bass guitar in One Flew West. They're putting their best foot forward with me on here. Really, I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the band, and we've got a lot to say. So they're funneling it all through me. But One Flew West is 4 members. Lyndon is our singer, acoustic guitarist. David plays electric guitar, and Jonah is our drummer. The band was formed many, many, many years ago, about 12 years ago. I was not in it then. I was very young back then, 12 years ago. So I was not in it, but the band has been around for about 12 years, kind of going through different types of genres. And then in about 2017 is when I joined my freshman year of college. I auditioned for the band, and they thought I was good enough, barely, to let me in, and that's how I actually arrived in the band. And then once I joined the band, we kind of took more of a we took on more of a kind of more stripped down version of what the band was. We had less instrumentation, and we kind of migrated more to a punk pop rock sound, and that's the line we've been riding since that time that I joined there.
So were you guys originally like a regular rock or like alt rock band, or were you jam band?
That's a good question, especially being from Colorado. You get those people on Pearl Street who are, man, you don't hear a lyric for 35 minutes and you're like, man,
oh God,
I might be missing something here. This is a jam session going on. Not that instrumental music is bad, because there's some great instrumental music, but before, honestly, the best way I could describe it, and this is unbiased because it's from an outside opinion, they sounded like Mumford Sons a little bit at the inception.
Okay.
They played a real heavy acoustic guitar. They had a lot of kind of folky influences. Kind of that real driving kick drum sound with a quick strumming acoustic guitar over the top. So it was really kind of like a little more aggressive Mumford Sons to start with. And that's
aggressive Mumford Sons. Mumford Sons, but people are throwing down in the pit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have the little like banjo on stage, and you're like, I want to see someone fucking kill someone to this song right now.
Yeah.
You're like, this is Ophelia. Is that the right one? I always get Mumford Sons and the other one mixed up because they're so similar.
Sons of Mumford.
Sometimes, I mean, mandolin though is a deceivingly like impressive instrument. It goes harder than most instruments I can name off the top of my head.
I had one friend, she just has one, and she also has a theremin for some weird reason, but she just likes to have it to like flex on people. And I said, okay, I understand that.
How cool you are with your theremin.
That's a good instrument right there.
It's one you can build on your own. Did she build it on her own?
No, she bought it from eBay.
Okay, that's even weirder. Like, you could just make that. Like, if you buy an instrument that you can literally make with just, like, I don't know, household materials, it's like, well...
But listen, are you a instrument maker?
I have played a theremin before, non-professionally. If there even are professional theremin.
I mean, there probably are.
No, not $1 exchanged for my my time
Rude.
Playing theremin. I agree, but I was in college, and you know how they are about paying
anybody
musicians. You pay them for the privilege of playing a theremin, okay? Anyway, it was I believe made. It was not purchased, so I was like, oh, this is like a pretty easy thing to just like make and own. Imagine buying from eBay.
Now, here's the thing, Dawson. Are you going to make your own bass now after listening to Brian's inspo message of DIY or die, basically?
DIY or die.
I don't make my own instruments, but the closest thing I do, because to me, the Fender Precision bass is the pinnacle that you can get of bass guitars. There's just no need to change that design. But what I like doing is finding really beat down P basses that are on like, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. If you don't think you're going to die when you go to buy it, it's not worth going.
Yeah.
And
That's fair. That's fair.
Is I'll just sand the paint off of the ones that they, because they're usually pretty beat up. Or they'll have like a skull drawn on it or something. And it's just like, God, what's going on here?
It's like, listen, we get it. You're 13 and edgy, but
Right.
stop it.
Exactly. And then I'll just throw a new coat of paint on them. I really like the bright poppy colors for basses. Like your seafoam greens, the rose golds, the pinks. I like those sorts of colors. So I'll redo it with those and hit it with a good clear coat. And once you get farther than 10 feet away, you'd never know. It looks fine. But if you look at it up close, you'd be like, oh, you went sketchy to get this one, didn't you?
Sometimes you got to live sketch. That's it. And it's okay.
Yeah, wow. That's where you find the good ones for sure.
Those are very Mark Hoppus bass colors too. For
a reason. I am a Mark Hoppus fan. Capital, all three letters.
All three letters.
Caps only.
Well, we have you on because your band is releasing their debut album. 12 years. This is your first album.
Yep.
It's coming out on March 25th, called The Blur. Do you want to tell us about the record?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, that's a really good point too, because people have said that with the tenure that the band's been around, they see one album and they're like, what on earth were those guys doing beforehand? Like, man. But the real good thing about this album was it was the first time we had the opportunity to go into the studio and make a full body of work. We've only done EPs up until this time. And it was for a mixture of cost and just the time we had to put towards it. But we teamed up with Smart Punk Records out of Florida for this release, and that allowed us to really put some time down in the studio and get a full set of songs together that actually constituted an album. So that reason alone has made us really excited for The Blur. It's the first time we've gotten to do that. But of course, The Blur was also written immediately smack dab in the middle of COVID, kind of half right at the beginning and half near the end. So it's also a very important album for us because it really kind of documents where we're kind of at with COVID throughout the whole span that it was happening, basically. So you get a little bit of that in there too. But other than that, I think it's really it's a One Flew West album. It's what people want to hear from us. It's what they expect from us. But there's also a few songs that give you the old eyebrow raise treatment. It's going to be a slight departure from stuff that we might do in our previous releases, just to the amount where we have a good mix. It's mostly going to be stuff that people know and want to hear from us, but we also throw in a few kind of new things that we brought to the table for this one.
Well, obviously, you're also, departing from Mumford Sons and you're transitioning. So there's also, I think, that to take into account with all of this.
Absolutely, yeah. And that really, I think the Trial and Error EP that we released in 2018, that marked our real first departure from, all right, everybody stomp your foot and let's get that acoustic guitar going, which is great. That sounds really good. But Trial and Error, we took a real big turn on that one. And we kind of found that was more of our niche. Once we found Trial and Error, that's where we knew we kind of wanted to hang out. And The Blur is definitely a continuation of what we had started with that. And then it also, we're now no longer a Mumford Sons type sounding band. We're also evolving with this one too and bringing some new stuff to the table.
I think, obviously a lot of people in the past have done EPs, but I feel like it definitely has changed in the last few years of we're going to focus primarily on just putting out as much music as possible in the shortest amount of time. So it's we can just toss out 3 EPs a year or a bunch of singles in a year. So it's interesting that it's we've never done an album. I guess as an artist, you're probably I want to do both. I just know that it's good to put out more music and have more of that material. And especially if you're figuring out sound and figuring out how you want to play with the group. If you're only in it for a few years, it's like, well, how do we write together? How do we create music? And I'm sure you want to make like a big body of work, but I feel like that lasts so much longer. And if you're just like, I want to make something now, I want to figure out what it is, and then I want to move on to the next thing and create that next and kind of keep that process up.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a fine balance that you want to find for sure with those sorts of things. And it's something too from a business standpoint that we found our music tends to be more successfully consumed when it's in single formats. So when we release a single by itself with a music video, with a good piece of album art, we find that it is more successful as a standalone piece. But at the same time, as a band, you can't exist off of just singles. Eventually, you have to put a whole story together. So the Blur is really coming at a good time. Between our last EP, a couple of singles in between, we were definitely ready for a longer body of work for sure.
Mm.
And now with this, what is this story that you're able to kind of succinctly tell now when it comes to having this cohesive album?
Yeah, totally. And there's the songs kind of were split in half. Like about half of them were written right as the pandemic started, and the other half were written more towards who knows when the true end is, but they were definitely
it's over
in the pandemic. Yeah.
No, we're all fine right now.
Yeah, we're.
Oh no! Oh no!
I know it's sarcasm for anybody who doesn't think that I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, but I think people will find is that the songs more towards the beginning of the album were more our statement on how we were feeling about the pandemic and kind of just this state of hopelessness, unsure about what our future is, things like that. And what you'll notice for the songs that are more towards the end of the album or were written later, it's really doesn't touch on those sort of topics a lot. And I think it was very symbolic of us just kind of being like, look, we need to take our minds off this and think about something else. So it's more rooted in what we traditionally wrote music about, which was just mostly our collective futures as people and as a band, just with where we're going to go with our lives, because we're all still relatively young. So that's really what a lot of our music is about, is just not knowing what's coming, really.
You put that in a really hopeful way, and I'm like, I'm old and I'm afraid of the future.
God, Brian.
And I'm like, can't relate.
No, I mean, and that's changed for us too throughout the pandemic. We're still young, but pandemic and everything that has gone on has a good way of making young people feel like they're much older than they are, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. Trust me. I get it.
Yeah. Lizzie's probably closer in age, but it's like, man, I just want to go through like not a like serious moment in history for like 1 year.
Continuously.
Yeah. Like 1 year would be chill.
Honestly, we really are keeping them back to back, one after the other.
It's, we have to condense everything at once. So then like later on, we don't have to deal with it. It's maybe like, how it's supposed to go. That's
like having like all of your pregnancies together so that you have all your kids all at once. And then you're like, oh, cool. Well, like all the kids are growing up around the same age, and it's not like you got to do the same shit. Like, yeah, it's like a thing.
What an analogy.
It's the same idea. It's just pregnancy.
I was just watching one of the 90 Day Fiancé spinoffs, and she was like, I'm having 2 kids under 2. And I'm like, what? I was like, that sounds terrible, my guy.
Like, I don't know. But, go ahead, Lizzie.
No, you can go. You get.
No, you go. No. I'm not going. You go.
This is still the thing with like online stuff, yeah. But with everything you guys do have coming out and this message, you're able to kind of give that out, at least with your upcoming album release show. And then also playing So What Music Festival down in Texas. That's also huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be presenting nearly our full album. I believe it is the full album. I got to remember the set list now. Have to get that into
it's not just in order.
It's not just in order, because we have a very interesting mixture of songs that are in standard tuning and are in drop D as well. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't quite work to just kind of slam them out in order that the album is. Yeah, because live, I mean, that makes for a lot of awkward tuning breaks. So you got to cut that down for sure. But
yeah.
We're going to be presenting the full album at both Meow Wolf and So What Fest. So that'll be both of those shows we're looking so much forward to. Meow Wolf as a standalone place is just really cool. Have you guys been to a Meow Wolf in your area? Is there one near Chicago?
I don't know what that is, but
yeah.
it sounds like a real wild name for a venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, Meow Wolf is incredible. It's basically like I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. I should have like looked up what Meow Wolf's goal is and been like, well, Meow Wolf is a contemplative art. Meow, it's like, it really is an art exhibit, and you walk in it and there's just rooms everywhere. I think really this is unofficial. I don't speak for Meow Wolf, but it's meant to make you feel like you're on mushrooms without being on mushrooms at all. That's what it's
interesting.
Really
okay.
aimed at. It's just really trippy psychedelic art, different exhibits that are just, you look at them and you're like, what am I looking at? But it's a great place for music too, because I think that's how we try to approach it as artists. You play this thing and everyone in the crowd is going to have a slightly different interpretation of what they just heard. And it's very much the same as physical art. You hear it and you just know everyone in the crowd is something different's going on in their head, depending on where they're at in their own life. So I think it's a really cool dichotomy they have between, it's a physical art exhibit, but it's also a venue too. So I think that's going to be a really fun show.
That sounds cool. Yeah, we don't have that out here. It's just like DIY venues that pop up with like different exhibits. And then, like, sometimes, the Contemporary Art Museum here will have shows, but it's usually in their one, like, specific area. And it's not like you can, like, hang out like that because it's expensive art. But no, I've always heard people say, like, they have these cool things. And I'm like, okay, but, like, why don't we have that here? I have to go to somebody's basement. And I don't want to do that unless it's a really good band.
True.
And it's weird because I think there's one in Denver and Santa Fe as well, which no disrespect to Santa Fe, it's a great place, but you would think Chicago would have one of those before Santa Fe would, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can shade Santa Fe if we have to for having it and we don't have it, but
yeah, that's kind of rude, actually.
Yeah, Santa Fe, get your shit together. Yeah, we have like this weird thing with venues where like venues in the actual city of Chicago have a really hard time like getting up and running, getting liquor licenses, getting the ability to like have music till a certain time and all that. So I imagine if they were like, hey, we want to do this here, they probably were like, oh, this is going to be way too much work just to have a space, to have like a space to have all this stuff in there to get bands coming through and then like you know the boring stuff, which is like ensuring all the artwork and all the people, you know, the boring stuff. But that's probably usually why, but still would be very cool if we had it. Yeah,
totally. I'm sure there's a ton of logistics that go into it. But I mean, one place I don't know, have either of you been to the Metro in Chicago?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Cool, because that is one I've never been, but I definitely want to go to a show there. My favorite band on earth is Alkaline Trio, and
fuck yeah,
they post about that venue a lot. And I'm always just like, man, that just looks like such a cool venue.
It's such a it's so open. And like you can move around so much for it being like comparatively like a smaller venue in Chicago, that you can still see like bands before they go to like either bigger places like Aragon is very huge, or like you know, like the stadiums, because that's like the in between. But it's like right across the street from Wrigley Field, and it has like a nightclub attached to it, and like another like regular bar that's also like a small show venue too. So it's like this really cool like dynamic with it across the board.
That is awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to make it out to a show there at one point. I hope it's Alkaline Trio, but hey, I'll take just
Alkaline Trio. Where are you?
They're there a lot.
Where are they though this year?
Oh, I don't know. Blinking 182 style. I don't know.
Blink 182ing it.
Yeah. I went to the 4 nights there when they played all their records. And
is that the one that they put on Spotify as like the Alkaline Trio live on Spotify?
Yeah. I think it was recorded there. I'd have to go. I was like, I was there. I don't need to listen to this. So it just like left my memory. And then I just listened to the actual like albums. But yeah, that was incredible. And the Metro is very much like, it's a very approachable and nice venue to be at. So hopefully you can come here for an Alkaline Trio show, because it happens all the time.
It's for sure. Yeah. It seems, did you get to go to all 4 nights, or did you see one of the nights?
Oh no, I went all 4. There were definitely some that were better than other ones. Like the last night was obviously like the best one, playing Crimson and then Good Morning. Like, it's clearly the best of all of them.
You could totally. Even on the live version, you can tell when he starts playing Cringe, leading into God Damn It, everyone just goes wild. Mm-hmm. But then there's some albums where he's like, "All right," and people are like, "Oh, I got this night. Damn it."
They're like, "This is the one I got." Upsetting.
Right.
They
totally.
So they had started doing it, and there was a lot of confusion online of like what is going to be the order of it. And I think after the first night, everybody realized, okay, they're playing them in like these kind of like reverse orders where they're playing the newest album and then the oldest album. And so it was like the first night you're there and you're like, okay, this is awesome. They're going to play. At the time that was,
it's
My Shame Is True. No, it was My Shame Is True. It was Is This Thing Cursed? So I was like, oh, I like this record. This is cool. This is nice. And then they kick into the first one. It's like everybody goes wild. Yeah, like you said. And the second night I'm just like, no one seems to care. It's like Agony and Irony and This Is Addiction, and it's like those are just not they're not their bangers from top to bottom albums. So it's like, there's a few good ones. People are going, having a good time. And then it's like, okay, see you tomorrow.
Short night, wrap it up. Come on, guys.
Quick night. Yeah, it was very good.
That's so cool. I can't believe you got to go to all 4 of them though. That is really cool.
It was a stretch. It was very it's like,
no, if we try to get Brian to go to all 4 nights again of Alkaline Trio, I don't know how it would go.
I would just go the 4th one now because I know what it's going to be. We are blessed with a lot of Alkaline Trio shows here in Chicago, obviously, but it's like
you guys are lucky for that one.
I mean, we take it for granted. Like, Rise Against too is another one where it's just like we just get them all the time. They play all the time.
Like that if you listen to alternative rock at all, you have seen Rise Against play at least once.
Yeah,
anywhere, literally anywhere. And if you haven't, it's a lie. You've seen them somewhere.
And no shade, they're great.
No, they're great. That's the thing, is that like you have seen them, and that's it. Like, I don't care if you say you haven't, you've seen them somewhere. Like, I think there was one year I saw them like 5 times. I don't even remember how that happened, but I saw them 5 times.
I was just there.
I mean, I've seen Rise Against 2 times live, and they are incredibly good. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, too, I don't know if you guys knew this about us, but we Rise Against, I mean, almost all of their catalog is recorded at the Blasting Room in Fort Collins. And Alkaline Trio did My Shame Is True at the Blasting Room, which is where we record all of our music since Trial and Error. So we get to go in there and look at all the Rise Against records on the wall, and just, I mean, being in the place where they record those songs is just super cool for us, because we love both Rise Against and Alkaline Trio a ton.
Hell yeah.
Now, hopefully, whenever you're recording next, maybe they'll pull the Travis Barker on you, or they're just like down the hall and they're like, "Hey,
right?
Can I come in here real quick?"
Matt Skiba just comes in. He's like, "Dude, let me play drums on this." And you're like, "You're not a drummer."
He's like, "Actually, I'm just gonna play bass," and you say, "Okay."
Yeah. I would hand him over
here you go.
He asked for. I want to play ukulele. Here you go. All right. You go.
I'm okay with the thereman. I don't fucking know what we're gonna do with it. Here you go, bestie. Let's go.
My own. Oh, the jokes always come back.
The only thing we've had happen like that, Bill Stevenson, the drummer of the Descendants, owns the Blasting Room. And we were tracking drums one day, and our drummer was in the tracking room playing away, and Bill walks in, and he's always dressed comfortably. That guy knows what he wants. He's got his gym shorts on, black t-shirt, his tennis shoes, and he just stands there for a second and stares at our drummer through the window, and we're all like, holy shit, does he think it's bad? Does he think it's good? Like, what? And all he does is he kind of stands there with his arms crossed, gives us one nod, and just walks out of the room. And we were like, all right, I don't know what that meant, but I hope it was good.
I mean, I feel like if he was like, this is bad, he'd be like, hey,
you would know.
This sucks.
He just hits the room mic. Hey,
get out of here.
Shit in there. So you want to just...
Dude,
you want to just come on now, dude. Like, stop it.
Go home, write music, come back. I know that you're not maybe you are, and I shouldn't assume anything, but lyric wise, I assume that Lyndon, being the singer, writes most of the lyrics. So if I'm wrong about that, please correct me.
Lyndon writes all the lyrics.
Cool. Sometimes we've had a lot more people lately like saying, oh no, we do everything collaboratively. And like, as somebody who wrote the lyrics for my band, I was like, no, you can't even read them. Like, I just sing them, and then you figure them out when you hear them from my mouth. And if they get them wrong, then I'm like, I gotta fix that. Like, so I don't know if it's like, do you? Let me ask you. Let me turn this into a question. I'll turn it from a statement into a question. Like, how
Turning
is the process of like writing music? Like, is it like, how do you guys collaborate with one another to create the product at the end?
Yeah, it's a good question. And really our music starts foundationally as acoustic guitar music, because we've migrated from being heavy acoustic guitar, but Lyndon still plays an acoustic every show, and it's definitely there. So I don't know if you both are familiar with the concept of the campfire test, but essentially if a song is able to sound good with just the vocalist and an acoustic guitar, that's probably a good indicator that it's going to sound really good with a full band. So that's the foundation we use for all of our songwriting. So Lyndon will approach us with a song, lyrics and skeleton, so just the chord structure written, and he'll kind of play it for us, or he'll send us a recording. And we listen to it, and it's very open songwriting. We have no problem telling him, that ain't it. Go back to the drawing board.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Stand there with your arms crossed, just like, no.
Go back to the campfire outside and think about what you did, and then come back.
You need to blow on that fire a little more. So that's how he approaches it. Is he'll bring us a song with chords and lyrics, and then if we think, hey, that actually sounds pretty good, we will start layering our instrumental pieces on top of it, which is really where a lot of the melodic aspects come in, with the lead guitar lines, and then the rhythm is created with Jonah and I as a rhythm section. So they end up sounding pretty different than when they are just brought to us. But that's how our songwriting works. It starts bare bones, acoustic and vocals, and then we all kind of layer in our own pieces together once that skeleton is set.
Like, would you say it changes a lot, or would you say it's just kind of like, if it's a good song, then you're like, no, we're just going to build on this. It's not going to change that much. But do you feel like it changes over time as you like obviously having songs for a long time and then working on an album for a while, you're like, okay, we've had these songs for a long time, but are they like always developing? Do they kind of just stay the same from when he first presents them to you, or how does it evolve?
Yeah, I would say they stay somewhat similar, but really the thing that changes is the musicality behind it. His lyrics almost always stay the same. The song structure almost always stays the same, but he might play a song to us really slowly, and we're like, man, that's got to have a breakbeat behind it, and it's gonna be basically double time this whole song. Or he'll bring us a song that might be a little quicker or like swung, and we'll say, we should just play that straight. It doesn't need to be swung like that. Like, it mostly is the musical elements of the songs that change. But the lyrics and the structures are almost completely unchanged from when he brings them to us and when they finally get pressed. But it really is mostly the music that changes. We kind of all try to say our own different pieces without even speaking words over the music. And it's really easy to do, because you kind of give it once, you listen through it once through, and you're like, okay, what is he trying to say with this? And then you pick up your instrument and you just try to convey what he's saying through your instrument, whether you play more aggressively, melodically, or whether it's kind of softer and a little more laid back. So we try to kind of layer in with our individual voices that way. Got it.
Yeah. It is that one thing about like the writing with an acoustic guitar, and you're like, this is how it should sound, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna put some punk drums behind that. You gotta fucking no, this isn't the sad, sappy like campfire trying to impress a girl with acoustic guitar song. We're fucking kicking somebody in the dick with this one.
Yeah, it's SpongeBob Campfire Song to the max.
Exactly. And there's an interesting thing too. This will be one that I think people will find interesting if they're listening, who normally listen to our music. We have a very tried time and time again graph of if Lyndon likes a song less, it is a good quality song. If he likes it more, it's probably not that good. And he's not here, so it's the truth. Because it's happened multiple times.
Can't defend it.
Yeah, he can't.
He'll play something and be like, this is the worst shit I've ever written. Like, oh my God. And we're like, that's really good. And then it's trial and error and it gets 1.7 million streams. And we're like, you almost axed this thing before it even got into the studio. So I think it's also a good... Absolutely, with anyone who writes songs from scratch, you are your biggest critic for sure. Because you hear yourself making all these changes, and sometimes it just takes an outside perspective to go, "That's really good. That sounds great." So I think we've really found that good fine line.
Yeah, I think that a lot of musicians who know how to play their instruments, especially like not the good Charlottes or the Blink-182s when they were first writing music. Where they're just like, no, I wrote a song. Like, it's a song. It's done and it's out.
And it's not great, but here it is. Yeah. And you are going to listen to it now.
And it's like forever. You connect so much better with like the simple, straightforward songs with like emotion and lyrics that like mean something to them behind it than you do with like, I wrote this really like complicated thing and like this is going to be like a third section here. You're like, no, dude, 3 chords and a prayer.
Absolutely, but I will say too, Cheshire Cat is my guilty pleasure. Sometimes, that's good. If you want to hear just straight skate punk riffs for 32 minutes, there's no better album than Cheshire Cat.
It just gets you through it. Like what you must be going through something to like have to go through it, but it's a good album to go through it too.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm going to argue with you guys and say.
Oh. Brian, did you know the SpongeBob reference I made?
No. Vaguely, but not really. No, I listened to this podcast on Blink-182, and it was like they were talking with a guy who does a podcast, I believe, that they go through every Blink-182 song. Like, they just talk for like 4 hours about each Blink-182 song. And they were like, okay, let's like play something off of Cheshire Cat and like, let the audience know like what this sounds like. And I'm listening to it and I go, this is bad. And I'm really not happy that they're so excited about it. I'm like, this is just not enjoyable to listen to.
I'm sorry you don't enjoy art.
That's peak human performance of music.
Yeah, I don't know what else you're looking for. It's literally like bold and brass, and you're like belongs in the trash. Yeah. You don't get that SpongeBob reference either.
I feel bad that I don't, but I stand by it. Like, it's rough, and it's like if I look back through like my old music shit, I go, man, that kid, me. Didn't have any idea what the fuck he was doing out there. He was just doing his best based on like those that came before them and trying to do what they could. And like, that's what it sounds like to me. And I'm like, oh, you really figured it out when you like had a producer and good quality equipment and learned to play your instrument a little better.
Absolutely. And I think that that's totally true with a band like Blink too, where like in the Pursuit of Tone episode with Tom DeLonge, he even says like, damn it, the song Damn It is where they really were like, oh shit, like this is good. Which I think every band kind of has that point where they go from like, yeah, this might sound aesthetically good, but you hit a point where you're like, okay, we can write a song now for sure. So, I mean, for them, obviously it was on a times 2,000 scale, but I think every band kind of finds that moment where they're like, okay, we actually know what's going on here now.
Very true. It takes time. It takes time to learn your craft and learn how you want to write these songs. And Blink-182 took a long time. That's all I'm going to say. I was not a huge Blink fan until the self-titled record. And then that was pretty much it. And then now I've gone back a little bit and I'm still like, this just isn't my favorite of this sort of genre, but I can at least like appreciate and I dig it. And obviously they've had a huge impact on the scene. So, but MGK has put out the most recent good Blink-182 record.
That is, I mean, I think the beauty of Blink to me is that I love Blink, one of my favorite bands ever, but to me, they perfectly embody the kind of 23andMe of finding real punk music.
That's what
you listen to Blink and you're like, holy shit, like this is music I can really listen to. And then you're like, man, what do these guys like? And you find Descendants, NoFX, Bad Religion, and you're like, oh, okay, this is really good music. Like this has some substance to it. And that's exactly what happened for me. I started with Blink and I was like, this is amazing. And then the band that I kind of found after them was Bad Religion, which is now my second favorite band, right behind Alkaline Trio, because you listen to those two bands and you're like, they're in a different universe from their actual songwriting substance capabilities. So I think the beauty of Blink is that it perfectly forays people into finding other punk music that they might not have found on their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hard to agree with that. I mean, you find one and then you just branch off and keep finding it because it's like, you know, oh, this sounds familiar, and something similar on like LimeWire pops up and you're like, I think that's it. I think that's it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
The algorithm of LimeWire.
Yeah. Well, LimeWire is now going to be an NFT site, so we can no longer reference it.
We are no longer talking about LimeWire. Just on principle. Just like, how could you? How could you take these memories that we had and ruin them?
How could you do this? But Dawson, we can also talk a little bit more about how you guys are also playing So What Music Fest, which is awesome because that lineup is insane to the point where people online keep thinking that it's fake because a lot of people don't know how shows can be booked.
Totally. Yeah, we were so excited to get that email when it came through that we were getting it. And I love the layout they have. They've got their good fair share of pop punk. They've got hardcore present. Then they've also got kind of more modern rap, hip hop type music, so it's really a very good, well-rounded festival. And yeah, when we saw the lineup, we were like, man, what a great lineup to be a part of. We got to play the Denver date of the Vans Warped Tour when it came through, and it felt to us really close to a Warped Tour type thing where it's just so much good music over the course of those days. So we're very excited for it. Question that we've got asked is the band we're most excited to see. That answer unilaterally is Sum 41 for all four of us.
Oh my God, Sum 41 is so fun live. I love Sum 41.
That's going to be, we're so excited to see them. So we're excited to be a part of it and excited to see a bunch of the other bands that play throughout the weekend too.
I hope we get to make it down there, but if we do, I will skip every band for 2 Chainz, no questions asked. Like, yes.
I'm gonna roll up, and I know he's not there, but Brian gave me some of his old shirts from his Scene Kid days, and one of them is just the neon, like scene core T-Pain shirt, and it's like so sick.
I'm just saying,
yes,
like,
what a man,
dude. I think that 2 Chainz would go the fuck off, and I just have to see it. I love
you
2
just have
Chainz.
to see it to believe it.
I just love that 2 Chainz is like, I'm gonna rap like it's a nursery rhyme, and the dude is just, I'm gonna go watch 2 Chainz over anyone else. It could be like, oh shit, him and My Chem are up against each other. It's like, I've seen My Chem back in the day.
When am I gonna see 2 Chainz again?
He's got 2 Chainz, guys.
Oh my God.
That really reminds me of I went to Riot Fest back in the day when it came through Denver, and it gives me the same vibe as Snoop Dogg played immediately. Yeah. Like, he played at the very, very end of the festival, and it was just like all these people who were here to see metal. System of a Down had just reunited, so that
it was that year, yeah.
And actually, Ice Cube played before System of a Down, and that was the 2 most different acts I have ever seen, one after another. And Ice Cube got booed off the stage. Actually,
are you kidding me?
What?
Who booed up Ice Cube? That's offensive.
Yeah,
I know. I was just like, man, you're just asking for trouble there. But seeing Snoop Dogg, like, people did not like Ice Cube, but it was all these people wearing leather jackets and had the studs and the spikes, and they're looking up at Snoop Dogg like, okay,
yeah.
I mean, that's good shit. And people liked Snoop Dogg at that festival, but they did not like Ice Cube. So to me, that kind of dichotomy of System of a Down versus Snoop Dogg might be what a little bit of you see at So What Fest for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there was people online saying like, oh, it's wrong, quote unquote, to have rap at a metal and pop punk music festival. And I'm like, have you never been to Riot Fest? Have you never seen? I'm like, have you heard of Wu-Tang? Like, have you heard of emo rap?
Yeah. Like, all genres are just kind of like colliding with one another anyway. And I think that's best for like music overall, for every artist to be able to do like, oh, we can put like hip hop beats in our rock music, and we can have a guitar in this pop band. And it's like, it's better for music overall, but the fans are still going to be dicks. And they're still going to be like, no, it's got to be raw and real, and I don't want no.
I want to know because Cardi B tweeted out, she's like, they don't make music like this anymore. And it was the I'm Not Okay music video as a GIF that she tweeted out. And I was like, okay, Cardi B and MCR collab when though? And I think everyone across the board would just like, their minds would explode. Like everyone would be just mad and not sure what to do. I'm like, that's the reaction I want to see from people. I want to see chaos happen.
Absolutely. I think it's so interesting too, coming from, I mean, One Flew West definitely has some politically voiced music here and there. I think the thing people don't realize a lot is that a lot of rap music and punk music are saying the exact same message.
Oh, yeah.
They're just presenting it in a different way, which is, I mean, the more people hear it that way. So I think rap and punk are oddly intertwined for two genres that sound audibly really different, but it's the same stuff that you're hearing really at the core of what it's about.
I remember in high school, everybody who listened to like System of a Down, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Korn, and like all those like new metal acts, or like the like late 90s, early 2000s like rock scene. We're also listening to like Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. Like they were listening to all of the hip hop artists too, because it's like this is clearly like the same influence on two different genres, but like it's all kind of the same. So like there was always this like sense that like, yeah, this all fits together. But then everybody started making fun of Limp Bizkit, and now they're all like, no, Limp Bizkit's great. And it's like, where were you? Where were you at the time?
Yeah, you had to be there for real.
I won't even like lie about it. I hated Limp Bizkit when they were first like doing stuff, because everybody I knew who liked Limp Bizkit was just such a fucking tool, and I was like, I don't want to hang out with you. Like I'm not saying I don't want to hang out with you because you listen to Limp Bizkit, but I'm saying you listen to Limp Bizkit and I don't want to hang out with you. So
it just became synonymous.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fair. There's somewhere you can make a pretty good guess about someone based on some certain music taste for sure.
So Dawson, let's back up here then. So like, what is some of your personal music taste? Obviously you said you like Sum 41. So
Yeah.
what else is there?
Yeah, and for me personally, kind of separate from the band, when I first started playing bass, I was a avid Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, as every
Brian's
first bassist
favorite.
is.
It happens with bassists. It's a thing. Like
it's a bassist syndrome where even when I auditioned for the band, I played with my fingers when I auditioned for the band. And my goal was I need a bass fill every gap there is in the song. I gotta play something crazy. And then as I matured more, I started listening. I almost exclusively listen to punk music now. Mm-hmm. And I started playing with a pick. I'll go on record. I think pick playing is superior to finger playing. But there's times.
This is going to start a riff online.
Yeah, we're going to clip this section and just put it everywhere so that people
We're going to put it on TikTok, and it's going to be like, do you believe in this? And it's chaos online now.
Absolutely. But what punk music kind of brought me to was that, okay, you're serving the song and you got to find your moment within the song to kind of shine. And that oftentimes holds so much more value than just playing crazy fills all over the place. And the bassist that really I identified with the most in that was Mike Dirnt from Green Day. Just listening to a lot of his individual interviews, his whole thing is finding a song within the song. And I remember my 13-year-old self hearing that, and I just went, "Oh shit! Like that is so true." Like as a bass player, you're sitting back there, you're supporting everyone, but you got to find that moment here and there in a song where you just play a riff that makes people go, "What was that? Like, was that a bass? What was that?" And that's what really makes a song as a bassist. So I have gone through a huge transition as a bassist from someone who was really forward in the mix and trying to pop through a lot to now someone who sits back and just kind of waits for when is there space in the song for the bass to pop through. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And that is solely due to punk music. I think punk bassists are tremendously underrated for being really high quality musicians. So that's for me as an individual player. And then the band, oddly enough, that all four of us would say we agree on the most is The Story So Far. We absolutely love The Story So Far. Absolutely a band that's in the top 5 for all of us. And I would say that's probably the band that you'll hear come through the most in our recent recordings would be some of their influence. But really our goal overarching as a band is to play very stripped down music. We basically use in the studio what we play live. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on because we want to give people as close as possible to a studio performance when we play live. And part of that is using the gear that you play live with. Because if you start to doctor it up and start layering too much or use different setups than you do live, you go to the show and you just think, what? Like, were different musicians playing in the studio? Like, what's going on here? But that's really that's a pinnacle that we try to hold strong to is really in the studio, you're getting exactly the same gear, setup, sound that you'll hear at a live show from us.
I know there used to be a lot more people in the band than just the four of you. And was that like kind of the thought process there? Like if we're going to have, like for me, it was always like, if we're going to have keyboards on a song, we need a keyboard player. And then I'm just like, then you have to pay a keyboard player and then you have to carry their keyboard. And this is all a lot. I'd rather just have a computer that just I've hit play and there's the keyboard and it cost me nothing.
We actually had a turning point show for that exact idea because it used to be, like you said, a 6-member band. Mm-hmm. So we played a show after the guy who used to play rhythm guitar and trumpet, Joe. Shout out to Joe. Love Joe. He left the band and we played a show without him. And our drummer, Jonah, had to wear huge headphones on stage because he was playing the trumpet on tracks live. And we remember the setup and sound check, it just being a disaster. He was like, I can't hear the trumpet. And then you have trumpets blaring out of the house speakers and people are like, where the hell is the trumpet? Like what? And so that show, Snowmageddon in who even knows? My freshman year of college, 20 something. Snowmageddon at Rose Park, I think in Denver. That was the day we said, we're cutting out tracks. We're cutting out unnecessary instruments. It's going to be bass, 2 guitars, and a drum, and that's it. That was our turning point show for we can't do the whole tracks thing for sure.
So I started a band, and this was based off of AFI, which is one of my favorite bands, because when you said bassist and punk music, I'm like, dude, Hunter of AFI, it's fucking nonsense bass. It's just so good. And I was like, they went from doing like just straightforward like punk with 1 guitar, bassist, drums, and singer, and that's it. And then all of a sudden they're doing like all this elaborate goth emo stuff that I love and will always love and come for me. And then they did like December Underground and they had all these synths in it and everybody was like, what the fuck is all this? Like there's just like building on top of it with all these like fake instruments. And I'm like, okay, so you have to start the band with synths in it. So that by the time that like you're doing like the next thing, it's like, oh, the synths are just always been there. Like it's just always had all these tracks in it. And then you're like, yeah, it's always there.
Absolutely.
Don't get mad at me for changing my sound.
I love AFI too, and I got a chance to meet Hunter actually in Denver. He was at an art exhibit, the punk rock paintbrushes art exhibit that they do. I got to meet him there, and we chatted for a while, and he was a really nice guy. But it was he said something funny to me because I was asking him more about like where does he find the right spot to jump through in a song and more about his technical bass rig. And he was like, most people just ask me how I came up with Miss Murder. I don't, some deep questions.
They're just like, hey, you know this song slaps. Can you tell me more about it?
Dude,
and
how'd you
all
come
the
up
other
with
songs
that?
I don't care about, but just Miss Murder.
Right. Which I could totally see. Someone like him, people probably are always like, Miss Murder. Like, I'm sure it's the same for someone like Mike Dirnt. People are always like, so Longview, tell me about Longview. And he's like, oh man.
He's like, I don't want to.
Right. But he was super nice. And I actually, sad story for me, I went to that event expecting to meet Matt Skiba in the flesh, but he catfished everyone. So, I mean, I've always been at 100% liking of Matt Skiba. It went down to 99.5 that day.
Okay.
Right back up though. But he posted that he was going to be in Denver for that art show, and I was like, oh my god, that's worth it. I'm going. And then literally like 2 hours before, he posted a story that was like, I've got the flu. I'm here in Canada. And I was like, you're wrong for that. You're
incorrect.
Yeah, but I still got to meet Hunter. And there were, Fat Mike's wife was there, where that's a person who I just walked by and I was like, you're Fat Mike. Like how there were just a lot of people there that were real great to meet.
I have found that it's better to be a Dan Andriano fan in Alkaline Trio than Matt Skiba, because Matt Skiba will disappoint you at some point, and like,
and you have to listen, maybe that's what some people need in their life for a reality check. Like, have you ever been so disappointed by someone?
I need a very upsetting parasocial relationship with the singer of this band.
I mean, it's hard not to be though. Dan Andriano is one of my top influences as a bassist. Absolutely amazing bass player. So he's hard not to like. And Derek Grant too, their drummer, is as savage on the drums. There's no other way to describe it. So it's funny too how Matt Skiba is one of my favorite musicians ever, but he also is with two really, really good band members too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derek Grant did a event here with us a few times, and he's the nicest dude. So, yes, be a stan of Dan Andriano and Derek Grant and Matt Skiba. Just, go, hey, man, thanks for writing good music. I hope that you can continue to just be a chill dude, man.
Yeah, and not like scatter any more dreams. Now we have realistic expectations here, and that's how we all learn how to set realistic expectations in our regular life.
Yeah,
thanks to our parasocial relationship
through Matt Skiba.
Dan would have never let me down at that punk rock paintbrushes show.
He never would. Dan wouldn't hurt you like that. It's very much like for people who don't know Alkaline Trio yet, I'm going to say go listen to Alkaline Trio because they're one of the greatest bands of all time. It's also a very like Blink-182 situation where you're like, do you prefer Mark songs or do you prefer Tom songs? And with Alkaline Trio, it's do you prefer Matt songs or do you prefer Dan songs? And I think most people choose Matt, but Dan writes some fucking bangers.
He really does. And honestly, for me, some of the highlights are songs like Emma, where Matt wrote them, but he had the wherewithal to say, I think Dan would sound better singing this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, those are the times where you just think, imagine if it would have been the other way around. The song would not have been the same. So absolutely. If anyone listening to this, look up Alkaline Trio and listen to them. And then listen to One Flew West after. Very different, but you will love Alkaline Trio. Guaranteed.
Build a playlist.
Money back.
100% money back.
Money back guarantee. You already pay for Spotify, so.
So it's there.
You gotta email Daniel Eck to see if you can get your money back from the CEO of Spotify. We got a few more minutes left, but before we get there, it seems like a nice place to throw out some plugs of where everybody can find One Flew West on the internet. Follow, make sure that they are ready for the record when it comes out next week. So do you want to promote that and let everybody know where they can find you?
Absolutely, yeah. So we are on almost all major social medias, including recently TikTok. And our handle for all of those social medias is at One Flew West Band. We stream on Spotify, Apple Music, basically any of the major places where people consume music. So if you go to your favorite social media, your favorite music streaming platform, and search One Flew West Band, you will find us. And that's correct. We've already released 3 singles for our album, The Blur, that are out now. So give them a listen. And then our full album comes out on March 25th, very, very soon. So we'll be playing a show at Meow Wolf here in Denver with 2 bands from Denver also that we love, we've played with before. So it's going to be a really fun time, and we are very excited to share this album with everyone. So definitely looking forward to it.
If you could pick one of those singles to have 1 million listens by Monday, which one would that be?
Without a question, Hopeless. The single Hopeless is one of my personal favorites on the album. And I think for those people who are familiar with One Flew West's old music, they will be right at home with Hopeless. So great place to start on the new album. And then kind of a sneak peek. It's a song that's not out yet, but the song Not For Me is probably the most acoustically different song that will be on the album. But I really encourage people to listen to it because it's a absolute one of my favorites on the album that kind of came out of left field for us. So when it does come out, don't skip Not For Me either.
1 million streams on Hopeless, and then 1 million streams on Not For Me.
When it comes out.
Guys, we need 2 million streams, and it's going to happen across any platform. It doesn't matter the platform.
Yeah,
it just matters
whatever one you use. Yeah. Tidal, maybe?
Question mark?
It's really easy. 2 million, come on, not that much to ask
It's
for.
like nothing. Yeah. Everybody
it's so
in
easy
here
and
can
simple.
Do it. Yeah. Come on. You guys have the internet, and it's on 24/7. Just so can the song be. I am not encouraging you to go a Justin Bieber route, but also
you could. But granted, it's probably a better song than Yummy. So
that is correct.
I remember that came out at my radio station, and my friend was like so upset that it was so bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, and he's like, I have to listen to this all day. I'm like, I can't help you. I'm so sorry.
Is it fair or appropriate or okay to be like, I prefer Justin Bieber's older songs?
Yeah.
I feel like if you're trying to be hipster about Justin Bieber, you've done it wrong.
True. That's about as unhipster as you can get, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, One World Do Slept, though. That's a good album.
Anyway, I don't want to give Justin Bieber any more time of day. I'm going to take one question from the chat before we wrap up too, and then we will just hang out on Twitch. We'll talk with everybody over there and answer the rest of the questions that were mentioned. But this one question from Kevin Nick. Hey, Dawson, did you tell your mom happy birthday today?
Today is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Also, a very important annual holiday, my mother Nikki's birthday, 3/17. Happy birthday, Mom, a.k.a. Nikki.
There we go.
That's a mom shout out on the pod.
Mom shout out on the internet.
Yeah, this podcast is dedicated to Nikki. So
I wouldn't be here if not for her. So what better time to do it?
There you go.
She created the top 25% of One Flew West. And for that,
she should feel happy for it.
We are all very grateful. Well, yeah, let's toss it over to Twitch. Let's hang out with everybody over there. If you are listening to this in the audio format and you're not with us on Twitch, first of all, shame. Second of all,
yeah, you messed up.
Go listen to One Flew West. All the singles that are out, especially Hopeless, 1 million streams. By the time the record comes out, let's even give you a couple extra days, push the assignment now has a couple extra days to it. Okay.
Yeah.
You're lucky. We're a lenient.
That's generous.
Yeah. We're a lenient college course. The record comes out on 3/25, The Blur. So I guess save it on your streaming platform. I know that people say to do that, and I know we've had bands on. It's like the best thing you can do is go and save that record on like pre-save it so that when it's ready. So go do that because it helps bands. And Spotify, it's a great platform where everybody gets paid a lot of money. So the more you can do, the better off all the bands are. So that is that'll be it. We'll go over to Twitch. But Dawson, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And happy St. Patty's Day to all of you.
Cheers.